All right. Good morning once again. Though I gave us this assignment to look at home, but unfortunately, some of us are not used to doing assignment at home. Is it that we don't have lights? We don't have lights. But when I came in, I did not meet you guys working. Some people are just folding their hands, looking, expecting Jesus to come. Abi? Oga, did you do the assignment? You are just doing it also in the class. Please, like I advised all the other time, this is not encouraging. You have to learn to be an obedient student. It's very important. Every speaker needs what? Encouragement before they can speak well. Do your part as we do our part for you to become the best that you want to become. It's not enough to just pay your school fees. You still have a role to play, major role. Please, particularly when you are learning serious programming languages like this. This is not HTML. You need to practice. Can anybody summarize what we learned last time? Please, I need 100% focus. I have started. You shouldn't use my time to be doing what you are doing now. So once I've done that before I came in. Can anybody summarize what we learned last time? Who can try? Can give us 10% of what we learned last time or 20%? We talk about what? JavaScript what? DOM. Can someone else help us to explain what is JavaScript DOM? Can anybody help us to explain that? What is JavaScript DOM? What do we mean by, okay.
It's an application program.
Content, right? Can someone else explain it from another perspective? Another view from that same definition? Another view, please. Remember all the instances we gave. If you remember that very class, I have to go back to CSS for us to understand an equivalent what we want to do in what? JavaScript. We have to start teaching us selectors, right? Using ID to select elements, using class to select elements, and so forth. Right? So we were able to create some app. Like I said, we can twist them to become something advanced or intermediate within our website projects. So we have few topics left before we look at Bootstrap. So I only wanted us to master JavaScript functions to an extent before we start consulting a framework that was developed with the language JavaScript itself. So in this session, we are looking at loops, right? We are looking at JavaScript word loops. So let me quickly create a different file. Let me create a different file. I'll name the file jsloop.html. jsloop.html. Of course, I will activate my HTML default file structure. Then I'll give my document a title, JavaScript loop. JavaScript loop. JavaScript loop. So what do we mean by JavaScript what? Loop function. JavaScript loop what? Function. Let's take down the definition. Because I want us to pay attention because this one is more advanced than what we learned last time. How do we define loops? Right. Loops in JavaScript are used to execute a block of code. Underline, used to execute a block of code. Repeatedly, underline repeatedly, for a specified number of times. For a specified number of times. Or until a certain condition is met. Or until a certain condition is met. Did we got that?
Met or met.
Met until a certain condition is met. Is that taken? Now, let me explain it. When we get to PHP, most of these concepts will be repeated. You are distracting me. Most of these concepts will be repeated. You are distracting me. I've given you a formula before. If you are not a fast writer, what you do is that you give space. When I'm done with the class, you go back. So I said what? When we get to PHP, most of these things that I'm talking about will be repeated. You see, the whole of that back end, I'm not going to spend more than 1 month. The whole of the back end that we are expecting. You know why? Because I'm taking my time to groom us on the JavaScript. In PHP, we still have loops. So most of these things that we are dealing with we still have them in PHP. So once we are able to master them here, for example, now in PHP, we still have variable. Is there anybody who not understand what is called variable? No. Well, the only difference is that the syntax will change. So which means that where I will have spent 1 hour to explain variable, I will end up spending what? Just 10 minutes. Why? Because by that time, you have already know what is what? Variable. The only thing that I will chip in is what? The declaration method in PHP. How does PHP write variable? Not telling us what is a variable. The same thing with the loop. We have it in PHP, but with different what? Declaration. That's why I said you pay attention, because this topic take cut across other languages. Now, in PHP, we are going to treat it as control structure. In fact, we can as well what? Write it as the main topic that is giving birth to what? To the loop. We have what we call what? Control structure. In programming, generally, not just JavaScript. Control structure defines the flow of a program. Every application you have there, being it OP, being it money point, they all have control what? Structure. How information flows, the structure. And under the control structure, we have 2 branches. We have the conditional statements, and then we have the what? The loops. So you can see that when I say we still have few functions. So as I'm taking loops now, we are still going to look at what? The conditional what? Statements. Under the conditional statement, that is where you have like if, if else, how many of us have heard of this before? If else, elif, switch. All these are branch of what? A programming language control structure. But I'm looking at the second arm. I know the reason why I'm coming from this angle. Now, just like the way we did for add event listener, you know, we took our time to understand what add event listener is first, right? Before we now look at how can we use it to build an app that can run in a website. We did that. So the same thing I want to go here. Probably the next class, if I'm not able to get there, we will look at how can we use this concept to build an app, a dynamic app. So, but pay attention so that when we get to the app development, it will not be difficult for you. So if you look at that definition, there are some words I asked us to underline, right? Can somebody help me with those words? Because I really want to emphasize on them. I said underline repeatedly, right? Which other one again? Block of what? Code, right? Execute a block of code repeatedly. Now, what is a block of code from function concept? Somebody should tell us what in programming a block of code is. Can anybody try? What is a block of code in programming? A block of code in programming. A block of code means group of what? Group of code. And that's why we say function is used to what? To group what? Scripts or code that can be reused without what? Writing them again. Is that not how we define function? So when I reuse the word here again, that what? Loops in JavaScript are used to execute a block of code. It means that what? We can write bunch of what? Code, wrap them in what? Loop that can repeat their tasks continuously until something what? Stop it. And that thing that will stop it is when a certain condition is what? Met. So just to break it down for us, your Microsoft window, from the time you turn on your computer when you walked in, is the system still running? Hello? When you got here this morning, you press the power button, right? And the window loaded, right? And I am asking, is the window still running or it has shut down? But there is something you will do that will make it to stop running. What is it? Click on what? Shut down. So which means that what? There is a loop function in the window that makes it to continue what? Running until a user click on what? Shut down. So that shutdown is the condition. So in programming or in app development, you can create a certain action within a web page that will keep running until probably somebody hovers on it. Now, let me give you another perfect example. How many of us have once visited a website? And when you are in the website, images are sliding. The moment you hover on one of them, everything stops. How many of us have experienced that? Hello? That is loop. Somebody have looped the images to keep what? Sliding as long as the page is active until, what is the condition the programmer must have programmed? When the user what? Hover. The moment you hover, then it stops. I'm just trying to point out where this function, this concept has been used. So now I believe with that, we have a foundation of what loops is. A program that will run repeatedly until something what? Stop it. So let's quickly look at types of loops in JavaScript quickly. Types of loops in JavaScript. Types of what? Loops in JavaScript. Types of loops in JavaScript. Number one, we have for loop.
For, look at the screen. For what? Loop. There is a loop that we call what? For loop. Then we have while loop. We also have do while loop. Then we have for in loop. We have for of loop rather. So these are the various what? Loop. But most time when you see programmers writing code, they don't use most of them. So it's as if one is what? Most used. Why? Because of its what? Effectiveness. Are you with me? It's just like the way we have Microsoft Word today. Are you telling me that Microsoft Word is the only app for writing tests? But it's as if you hear only what? Microsoft Word. Can anybody tell us the reason why it's as if Microsoft Word is the only app for test writing? Because it has more tools. It's more rich in terms of tools for what? Manipulating what? Words. How many of us know that you can use Notepad? Notepad can type also. But when you look at Notepad, there are no much what? Tools. Then we have WordStar. WordStar is another word text editor. We have so many of them. But today, it's as if we are using only what? Word. So I've said that to tell you this because it's possible that you must have been watching video or you must have come across code writing program and nobody have mentioned what? For in. Nobody have mentioned what? For off. It's normal because it means that what? Most of the programming communication goes with what? For loop. That's why I look as if that is the only one that is being used. So let's quickly look at them one after the other. So I'll try my best to see how far I can go with them. If I can't cover them, remember I said research is part of this training. So anywhere I stop, you go and research the remaining one. Now let's start with what? For loop. Quickly. For loop. For what? Loop. Let's define that. A for loop is used to execute a block of code for a specific numbers of times. A for loop is used to execute a block of code for a specified, number of what? Times. So let's look at the syntax. Can anybody help us? What is called syntax again? What is syntax in programming? What is syntax in programming again? What is syntax? If you cannot remember what is syntax, then the class will close here. See you next week, Tuesday. So try. Some people that are using their phone as notes, they are also taking advantage to do some other things.
Syntax is like which one?
Try, sir.
Syntax is like format.
It's not like a format. It's formats. It's not like you don't go, hey, I come back now. You can't say it's a rule. It's a rule. So you are still blowing grammar. This young man tried to simplify things for us. It's a format. Because when you say it's a rule, then what is the meaning of a rule again? You are correct. All right. So, and like I always say, that always make sure that you understand the function syntax so that you know what and what the function needs to execute. So let's quickly look at the syntax first. The syntax is that you start with the for, copy this, then remember I said the for is a function, right? If the for, how do you know that a write-up is a function? How do we know function? Once it carries what? That what? Parenthesis what? Bracket. Know that what is a function. And a function needs what to work? It needs what? Parameter or input, right? So inside it, we have initial, write all this. We have initialization. It's part of initialization.
Coming. Whatever that I have to attend to. So where did I stop? We are still looking at the syntax, right? So I said we have initialization, and then you put a semicolon, then you have increment. We have increment. We have increment slash decrement. We have increment slash decrement. And then the calling brackets. And then your code here. So make sure that you write this syntax the way it is, or let's say code to be executed. Code to be executed. Here, code to be what? Executed here. So this is the syntax. So anytime you declare the for, you must specify how many parameters inside. 2. One is what? The initialization. The second one is either what? Increment or what? Decrement. Then what you want the script to do comes inside what? The code block. Now, let's look at an example now, right? An example. So let me write also in internal, let me use internal JavaScript. So let's assume that we want to output 1 to 4. You want to display 1 to 4. Ordinarily, you will have created how many variables? 4 variables, right? For you to display 5 items or 4 items. But because we want to use loop, we can use loop to what? To display them at once. Because loop can iterate. Now, let me make it like a task. What is a task? Create a JavaScript. Create a JavaScript app. Create a JavaScript app that iterates over 5 elements. Over 5 elements. Or numbers. So let's assume this is a task. So the next thing I'm going to do is to declare the for loop. For, remember the syntax I just gave to us at the top. Then inside it, I will establish a variable that will determine where it will start from. That is the what? That initialization now. So I will say var. I believe we still know what is var. var or let, right? var. So I will say var I. So that I is usually used to represent what? The initial state equals to 0. I will explain it once I'm done writing. Don't worry, just pay attention. Then if you look at the syntax here, you discover that after the initialization, what follows? Semicolon, right? So I'll put semicolon here. After the semicolon, what follow? The increment or what? Decrement. So the increment, I will say what? I is less than 5. I is less than 5. Then semicolon to end it. Then after this, then I should increase. The increment in JavaScript is what? Plus, plus. Plus, plus. Then after that, remember we now open our what? Curly what? Brackets. So inside the curly brackets, I want to display something. So what will I display? I will display I, right? Because I is the variable, right? I will display I. And then I can use document dot what? Any of those display method. Or I can say alert what? I. Or what? Document dot write. I know we must have forgotten this one. Document dot what? Write. Then write what? I. Now, let me explain it now. What we have done here is to simply say, start from 0. We all know that
in programming, the first item is what? At index what? 0. How many of us know that? If you arrange 5 things now in programming, the first one is what? At 0, right? And the reason is that what? In programming, it counts the item before it to label the number. So before that first item, what do you have? 0. That is why 0 is given to what? To the first one. Before the second item, how many items you will have counted? 1. That is why the second item is what? 1. Before the third item, how many items you will have counted? 2, right? That is why the third item is what? So when we say what? I equals to 0, it means you just define where the counting should start from. 0. Then if we are saying that I is holding 0, then when you say I is less than 5, it means that what? You are to display numbers from 0 less than 5, which means that what? 0 will be displayed, 1 will be displayed, 2 will be displayed, 3 will be displayed, 4 will be displayed. Will 5 be displayed? Why? Because of that operator that says what? Less than 5. So which means that you want to display, you want to iterate across numbers that are less than what? 5. Now, you are saying that, now let me break it down. I just hope that I should be able to use my annotation to break it down. The first time it will iterate, the first time the code will run, it will reset to what? 0 before starting. And then when it iterates, to reset to 0, right? That's the first one. When it iterates again, you add 0 plus 1. It will give you what? It will output what? 1. Then when it iterates again, it's what? When it loop again, because we say what? It runs continuously, right? Until a certain condition is met. What is the condition? Until the number is what? Equals to 5 or greater than what? 5. That is when it should stop what? Displaying numbers. So when it iterates again, it will now add 1 plus 1, because you say this increment means what? Increase by 1. Each time you loop, add 1 to the previous one. But this one means what? Start from the first one. Now, if it add 1 to the previous one, it will now become what? 2, right? It will go again and add 1 because of this what? I plus plus. You add 1 here, it will now output what? 3. If it iterate again, add 1 to this, become what? 4. Now, if it iterate again and add 1 to 4, it becomes 5. So it's not stop that. No, I cannot output, because at this point, the number is now greater than what? 5. So that is what will be happening at the background. That is what the loop will be doing. Do we understand that? You know that even when you are playing music, how do you loop the music to play continuously? Maybe as you want to sleep by maybe 7 p.m., you want that song to be playing till you wake up. What will you do? To be repeating. You know, there's an icon that indicates loop, right? That once you get to the end, it will start again. So the same thing we are saying here. So each time it's starting, it will be increasing by what? 1. So if I put here 1 equals to 1, each time it's starting, what will be happening? To be increasing by to be increasing by 2. The reason is increasing by 1 because each time you add 1 to 0, you still give you what? 1. So if I put here 1 now, if you add this 1 to this one, it will increase by what? 2. So now, let's go and run it again. Let's go and run the code and see what we are going to get. I thought we have outputted before. We have not, right? So let me output now and see the outcome. Let's see how many numbers we are going to see on our web page. It's coming. How many numbers do we see here? 0. Let me see. Let me see whether we can see very well. It brought out what? 0, 1, and stop, because all these numbers are less than what? Now, if you go back and change this sign to greater than 5, who can tell us what will happen? It will continue from here. Let's look again.
Continue from 6.
It will continue from but it's not coming out. Because you are saying that what? var 1 equal to 0, right? So where else do you think we need to tamper with before it can display number above what? That 5, as we said.
That's the
Let's hear from you one after the other. Okay.
that will change that by
So what?
so it's
Good. To a number what? Higher, right? So let's say what? 10. If I go back there now and refresh. So we have used his own option. Which other option again do we have left?
let's try 6.
Okay, we try 6. Have we? Just 6. Like this. Have we? We change the 0 to
1.
change the 0 to 1. Whatever you want me to do, I will do it.
1 or 6. 6 will be greater than 6.
We should change.
Let's put 6.
Let's put 6 here, have we? 6 here, and then here will be 6. Remember where here was 0, here was 5.
Like 10.
Let's put like 10 here. This debugging, no, there's nothing wrong with you debugging, trying things out. If it doesn't work, you go back. So we have tried all these options. So if I put this, or can anybody try to suggest anything else? Let's even find out whether everything is still communicating, because at times your browser must have been confused. It might not be that you are wrong. So if I go back there now, if I see number, what was here before? What was here before? 0, I mean? What 0? I will put what? 5 here, right? Now you can see that even now as we come back here, it's not displayed. That's what I want to confirm. Sometimes the browser must have confused. So what you do is that you run it again. Let's see. So which means that the reason why it was not working, not because we are not getting it, but because the browser is not loading. So you have to reload the app. Or let's take it back to exactly what was there that outputted value before, so that you know whether it's the browser that is malfunctioning. So what was there before? 5, I mean, and here was 0. So if we go back and we get the value, so you can see that it's from the what? The browser. Huh? Okay, the greater than, good, we have changed, good. That may be another place too. We use less than before, right? We use less than, good, that means not the browser. It was that what? Operator. So now let's go back again and modify. What was here before? We use what? Initial. When we put 10 here, let's change here to 10. How many value are we able to get? To stop at 9, right? Then when we change here to 1, right? 1, what do we get now? That remove 0. which means that what start from what 1. Then if you change here to 2 and so on like that. So let's quickly apply this first before we continue. Let everybody master this first. You can use alert. You can use document. If you are using document.getElement, what must you do? If you are using document.getElement, you must go and add HTML element with what? An ID. So let's quickly do that. Oh yeah, everybody get to this page before we proceed to the next one.
All right, so now let's look at another one, which is from the type that I mentioned. What should be the next? So that is how for loop work. In the project we are going to create next class, we will see more of it. I just want to give us the foundation. Then we will now look at how we can use to build React. The next one is what? While loop, right? So let's look at that quickly. While loop, right? While loop. In JS, while loop. Let's look at the definition first. So while loop is used to execute the block of code. While loop is used to execute block of code as long as the condition is true. As long as the condition is true. As true. As long as the condition is true. I don't know. Maybe as long as the condition is true. So that you know whether it's true that I pronounce it or it's true.
All right, so let's also look at the syntax. It's very important you always understand the syntax. So syntax for executing this is while instead of for, you start with the name of the function, while. Then inside the while, you specify the condition. Because we said as long as what? The condition is what? True. So there's a place where there is comparison. Then before you open your code block, so code to be executed here. Code to be executed here. Code to be executed here. So that will now take us to the example. That will take us to the example. Now, here we are going to create a global variable under what we call variable scope. How many of us have heard of variable scope or scope of variable in programming? A variable that is created in a function is called what? Local variable. A variable that is created outside the function is called what? Global what? Variable. The difference is that a local variable, the value of it can only be used in that function. But a global variable, any other function can use what? The value. So in this case, we'll first of all say var. Let me come out properly. I'll say var, the var I, remember just like what we did. Because then this was inside the function. So var I equals to what? 0. So you end that one there. That is a global variable. That means the variable is not inside the while function. Why? Because the while function is going to be comparing whatever is given to it in that condition to what has been stored in what? The variable what? I. Outside the while function. So you now have while function. What is the condition? If I is greater than or is less than, that same thing that we achieved with for is what we want to do with while now. It's just for you to take note of the differences in the syntax. It's fine. As long as the condition is what? True. it will keep what? Looping. So what we are saying is that what? This while will be comparing this 5 to what? To 0. So based on the symbol, the operator you are using here, we are using what? Less than. So which means that what? The while we output a value only when it compares 5 to 0 if the 5 is truly less than what? Is 5 less than 0? No, right? It will display what? 0. It will go back again. Remember that each time it will what? Increase by 1, right? So now let me finish the code so that we can understand this. So I will say what? Document. Let me also use this. Document.write. Just to make my work faster. Document.write. All right. Document.write. Then what are we putting inside? Document.write. What are we putting inside? We are putting what? I inside, right? So it will keep looping until the first time it will loop, it will reset to 0 and output 0, right? The second time it will loop, it will add what? 0 plus what? 1. It will output 1, right? The next time it loop, it will add what? 1 plus what? 1 again, right? It will output. So which means that what? Outside this, you end this, and then you come outside, you are still in the while, you will now do what? I plus plus. Then you now put your something. So if you don't put this one now, it's not going to what? To be increasing. So let's go there and check what we have. From here.
So now let's look at the next one. The next one is for in loop. For in loop. Let's look at that. For in loop. Let's start with the definition as well. A for in loop is used to iterate over the properties of an object. It's used to iterate over the properties of an object. It's used to iterate over the properties of an object. Now remember that before now, we have talked about JavaScript what? Objects. An array. Just remember, these are data type that can hold what? Multiple what? Value. But we said that object can hold the key and the value. So let's look at the syntax before we look at the application. Let's look at the syntax, but it's very important you understand the syntax. Let's take a look at the syntax. So the syntax here is we have for, and then you open the brackets. Then inside the bracket, you declare your variable, let's say var. Declare your variable, sorry, I'm supposed to put it inside. Yes, I'm coming. Inside the bracket, then property name in objects. Property in objects follows, and then you now declare your block or your code block, and then code to be executed. Code to be executed here. So now let's look at the example properly. Let me put the example in another script. So I will start by declaring the JavaScript object. And I believe you can still remember the JavaScript what object syntax. So I will say var, the object is a person. In other words, I want to collect information about what person equals to, remember that we use this curly bracket, right? Then the object, we have a name. Let's say the name is the key, then column, then the value can either be string or number. If the value is a string, what do? We put it in what? A string, right? If it is a number, we pass it like that. So let's say the first name is Prosper. That is 1 key and the value. Then I will introduce a comma. I also want to capture Prosper age. So age is another key. Then column. Then Prosper age is a number or text. It's a number. So I'll just type it without what? Putting it. Then comma. I want to capture Prosper city. So city become another word, object. And then with a value, data. Data is a string, right? I'll put it in what? In a string. So this is the syntax on how to create JavaScript what? Objects. And don't forget, I said object is part of composite data type. That's what? Advanced what? Data type in Python. Sorry, in JavaScript. So now, from the syntax I gave to us, you can see that we have fully used the syntax. So we have created this. So this is the object because I said this will allow us to iterate over properties of what? An object. So that is why we have to start by creating what? The object. So which means that I want to call out these names using the what? The for in. Look at where the in is coming from. For in an object. Are you getting it? For in an object, iterate and bring out this value. So we cannot go to the JavaScript aspect. This one is just to create the what? The object. Then we will now say for this, for, then open the what? The brackets. For var, are we following? For var prop, you can abbreviate it in what? What is the name of the property? Person. Good. Person. So let me tell you what this prop is doing. What we are saying is that you are calling things from here, and this is what is going to hold only those ones. Does anybody understand why we put this? You are calling things from here. That's what? You are creating another variable. That is why you brought in the what? The var. Another variable is involved. Why? Because you want to pick out some things here that you don't want them to be stored in this variable, that will be held in another variable for outputting. So that's why I say what? Var prop in is a keyword. In property what? Person. Call out what and store it here. So let's continue. So after this, we will now complete the syntax. We bring in what? Our what? Calling what? Bracket. What we want to do. So we write our script in here. So our script is, we want to display some value that will be called from person and stored in prop that will be outputted. So I will say what? Document dot what? Dot write. I'm just using this. All your assignments, use document dot get element. Then inside it, I will say prop, because prop is now what? A variable. You can see that it's now in the program what? Library already. Prop, I want to concatenate because I want to add a brief statement. We have learned it before. I want to add what? Prop, maybe a particular thing. Maybe my name is. So for that reason, I'll just bring in what? This. That plus means what? You are concatenating a statement that was not captured anywhere together with what you are getting from what? The person object. So I will say what I want to put here is what? This. Column. In other words, you want to mention things. That is the only thing I want to put here.
Then I will also concatenate it. I will put the plus again here, concatenate it with what? The person. So I will not call that object in full. I will say from person, select. Are you getting it now? From person, select. Select what? You now use from person, select prop. From person, select prop, which means that what? When you were looping, you capture all the parts here and store them in what? In prop. So you are now saying that, okay, now that you have this, from that person, select the sub that is in what? That prop. So if I output this now, it's going to display everything here. So let's go there. Let's go there and check. You see it now? It calls out what? Everything. 1. Where did I use 1?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Why I'm using 1? Because it's allowed. I said it now from beginning. That you can use 1, you can use 2. Yes. But please, if you are using 1 here, you don't use 1 here. Come and use what? 2 here. If you are using 2, use 2 what? Or true. Are you getting it? Oh yeah, let's implement now. Let's implement this quickly.
How we can use concepts of loop to develop real app that you are going to incorporate in that your website. So for those of us that are currently working on our front end project, start working on it. Start working on it because you will implement this project there. Remember, some of us will have started implementing the first one. See you on Tuesday.